Yep, Graham Reek finals next week, and exams this week. So it's all study, study.
Yeah, well, luckily I don't have too many exams. It's not going to make you feel better. Alright, so today's going to be really, really fast. So at least then you can study for your other classes. But we're just going to talk about the final, basically, how that's going to work out, and also SOQs. So, first, SOQs. You guys should have got an email. I think they keep sending a lot of emails, to be honest, but you should have got an email about SOQs for this class, and then of course your other classes too. So fill those out when you get the chance. I think they close on the 14th, so really make sure that you fill them out, because that's going to help me a lot for next semester. So fill them out, give some honest feedback, and of course they're anonymous too, so I don't know who said what. So if you want to trash me or bash me, then you can. It's going to help me out. Right? So do that. I'll probably send out a reminder email to you, but again, fill them out when you can, because they do help a lot. And that's again due by the 14th, I believe. Alright, so for the lab memos, I know I'm getting a little behind on them now, at least for the column. I haven't graded those yet. And then you guys also turned in the Sharpie Impact lab. So I know we have those two labs. I've been busy grading a project for my other class, but I'm going to grade those this week, all of them. And so you should know where you stand in the class before the final. That'll be the only thing that's not going to be graded, because we haven't done it yet. So those labs, they're going to be graded by the end of the weekend. And then that should help you guys out. Also, if you see your grade right now, if you click on your grade and it shows it as a 0 for a lab memo, and you actually typed it out, you turned it in and everything, don't freak out about that. Showing up like that because Canvas is annoying. I'm just gonna blame it on them. Sometimes they automatically give you a 0, especially if you turned it in late. And but really, you're gonna get points. So if you turned in a lab memo and it shows a 0 right now, don't freak out. I'm gonna grade it. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. All right. Let's see, anything else? Oh yeah, if you still see a 0 for a lab memo by the time that we have the final next week, then make sure that you let me know. Send me an email, and then I'm gonna fix that. I might have just, not seen it. I should, but if you have a 0 next week by the final, let me know. And speaking of the final, so I think on my syllabus someone pointed out that I showed the final as being on a Monday. It's not on Monday. I think before, when I made the syllabus, the schedule wasn't out yet for the finals for Cal State Fullerton, but they've been out for a while now. There's a web page for it. Usually they actually show on the student portal for each class, but it's probably different because it's all online. I don't know. But for this class, it should be on Wednesday at 11 a.m. But I want to make sure that that actually doesn't coincide with any of your other finals. So do any of you have a final on Wednesday, May 19th at 11 a.m.? Or conversely, I guess you guys can say in the chat too if it's open then for you. It should be open, but I just want to make sure.
I don't have a final on Wednesday. I just don't remember exactly at what time.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, if you check when you can, and then if it is at 11, then let me know. But it should be clear, but I guess who knows. Also, though, it is going to be, I'm going to give you guys 24 hours to work on it. So that doesn't mean that it's really, really hard or anything. I'm just going to give you 24 hours. So if you have other finals that are maybe that day, but at a different time, you can get some last minute studying in for that if you want. And then you can complete this final. Just make sure you finish it within that 24 hours that I gave you. So it'll open up at 11 a.m. on Wednesday, and it's going to close the next day at 11 a.m. So, and then also the final is going to be, of course, through Canvas. I think I'm going to have the format kind of like a quiz kind of format on Canvas. So you're going to have, it's going to be, each question will have a text box, or you might need to upload like a scanned file. So we'll get to the study guide in a second, but I'll have each question a text box, and you might need to upload like a picture. So we'll do it like that. But yeah, again, the 24 hours, that doesn't mean it's gonna actually take 24 hours. It's still gonna be made for the time of, for how much we would have for this class, which is, 2 hours, 50 minutes for a final? It's not even gonna take that long, for sure. Alright, so study guide. I haven't uploaded the study guide yet. Let me pull it up here. But I'm going to upload this basically right after class. So the study guide, if you go over it, you're going to do well on the final for sure. So some things that we have here. So we have 15 things. That doesn't mean you're going to have 15 questions. I'm not sure exactly how many I'll have first. I'm going to actually work through this on my own, and we'll see how long it takes me. But yeah, so you might have any of these questions, or even if there's something that's not on here, it'll be related to something. So, for example, first one, stress strain diagram points and regions. If I give you a stress strain curve, I want you to be able to label important regions. So I'll tell you, label the UTS, label the elastic range, necking, and fracture point. Maybe proportional limit, stuff like that. But I could also have something that's a question that's related to stress strain in general. But it'll be related to this year, it'll be related to the stress strain diagram in general. Maybe I'll have 2 stress strain curves for basically that would represent 2 different materials, and you would explain why the stress strain curve looks one way for one material and a different way for the other material. So maybe their elastic modulus is different. So you'll see like a steeper curve on one and not as steep of a curve on another for the elastic range. That would imply that one material is stiffer than the other. But again, it'll be related to all of these points here. Alright, so stress strain diagram, points and regions. Make sure that you go over that. The elastic range versus the plastic range. Make sure you understand the differences there. The yield strength and why it's sometimes used over a yield point. So remember, we had this for, I think it was aluminum. There wasn't a defined yield point in the stress strain curve, so we used the yield strength of, 0.02% offset for the strain. So make sure you refresh yourself on that and how you would go about it for defining the yield strength. Next one, define necking and what materials this is going to occur for. So remember, necking is when our cross-sectional area decreases during the tension test. How an extensometer measures strain versus how a strain gauge measures strain. So this is basically first lab versus second lab kind of thing. So the extensometer, it doesn't measure strain directly, so make sure you remember that. It measures deformation, and then we convert that to strain by using delta L over L. And the strain gauge, that's going to measure it directly. Make sure you review how it does that. And then benefits and negatives of the extensometer and the strain gauge. So I know we didn't do any of these labs in person, but we talked about some of the benefits and some of the negatives, and you also we're supposed to talk about this in one of your memos, and I should have left feedback on that as well for what you wrote. Right. So, other one, where would you place the dial gauge when measuring the maximum deflection for a simply supported beam as shown in our lab? Again, we didn't do it, but we talked about this multiple times for the beam lab. basically it's in the center. So think about why we need to have it in the center for that. Okay, importance of effective length. So that's for the column experiment and how it's determined. So look that up, refresh yourself. So the effective length, that's going to change some things for the column or how we calculate some things. So look at that, look at the equations. I might basically have a question where I give you the effective length, the equation for effective length, and I'll say what's going to happen if the effective length was increased versus decreased, and you can kind of look at the equation to help you out for how that's going to affect some experiment. Okay, importance of radius of gyration to stability. So that was another part for the column lab, and so this equation, if you look at that, it's going to affect the stability for a column. So if a column is more stable, like it's real fat and girthy, weird word, it's going to be more stable. But if it's a really thin, slender column, it's not going to be very stable, and it's going to deflect outwards quite a lot. Alright, difference of short, intermediate, and long columns. So again, a lot of this is related to the slenderness ratio, the effective length, and the radius of gyration. So these 3 questions, they're all, actually 4 questions here, they're all very similar for the column lab. Okay, how each column type fails. If it's short, it's going to crush. If it's intermediate, if it's short, it's going to crush. If it's long, it's going to still fail from stability, going to deflect outwards a lot. If it's intermediate, there's a combo of both. So I'm kind of answering some of these on the fly, but you're going to have to be a little more detailed in the final. Alright, differences for normal stress, compressive stress, shear stress, and bearing stress. So normal stress, that was lab 1. Compressive stress, that was for the column. Shear stress, that's for the double shear stress test that we just did. And also bearing stress, that's for the same one. So basically just define them and note the differences for how something is going to fail under these different stresses. Alright, normal strain. Basically just define normal strain. That's a really easy question. I probably won't have that, but I might. So make sure you can be able to, that you're able to define normal strain. Next one, fracture surface appearance for brittle versus ductile materials. So this will be related to the last 2 labs that we had. I'll probably focus on the Charpy impact though. So if I show you a fracture surface for the Charpy impact test, you should be able to look at that fracture surface, and based on its appearance, you should be able to tell me if it's most likely a brittle material, ductile, or something kind of in the middle. And I'll also tell you the associated temperature. I shouldn't say if it's a brittle material or not, it's a brittle or ductile fracture mode. Because remember, we could have like a ductile material that might behave brittle at a cold temperature. So we want to focus on the fracture mode that we see. Alright, and then the last thing is knowing how to do basic calculations to find normal stress, normal strain, bending stress, column deflection, critical stress for columns. So, there is no math at all until this last part here. For my finals for labs, I don't really like to have a ton of math because that's why you have your actual lecture class. I want to go over stuff and make sure that you understand what was occurring in the actual lab. Of course, that's a little different because it's online, but all of these things, you would see them in the lab. And it's good this is a good way for me to actually know that what happened in the labs. But I will have at least 1 math question. It's going to be basic again, but you might need to find the normal stress. So I'll give you some knowns, like the diameter of a rod, I'll tell you what the material is. I'll give you the length for the rod. And then you'll have to do some calculations. I'll tell you the load too. So you should know how to do all of these basic calculations. And I'll basically probably choose for one of these options. Or I can do a combo too for a stress and strain. I'll give you one question that says, all right, from all of these things that I gave you that are knowns, calculate the normal stress and the normal strain, or calculate the bending stress depending on if it's a beam, or calculate the column deflection. I'm not going to do that because we actually measure the deflection. And then critical stress for columns, we could do that too. Alright, so make sure you guys know how to do that. Basically, you did these calculations in your lab memo, so it should be an easy reference. And for the final, I didn't specify that, I guess, so far. But it's open notes, it's open YouTube for the videos that we did. Basically open everything besides other people. So don't talk to each other about the final. That would be cheating, of course. So make sure you do the final on your own. And for something like this, it'll be obvious if you guys are just copying and pasting the same answer. It's going to be super obvious. So don't do that. Work on it by yourself. Everyone can do this by themselves for sure. Alright, so are there any questions on the study guide or really anything for the class since we're in the last week now? Oh, actually before that, for the final, I will be on Zoom, but you don't have to. So if you want to take the final and you don't want to be in the Zoom session, you don't have to be. I'll be here for the allotted time for the final, so that's like 11 to 2 something, I think. I don't know, I'll look again. But I'll be there for the allotted time. But again, you don't have to be in the Zoom session if you don't want. But you can ask me questions within that time period. And you can ask me a question on Discord. And really, for the full 24 hours, you can ask me a question on Discord. Of course, for only things that I can answer, right? Alright, so just letting you guys know about that. Alright, so any questions on the study guide, how the final is going to be, or anything for the class? Alright, well, if there's no questions, I think that's all I have. Let me check again. Lab memos, we talked about the grades. The final SOQs in the study guide. Yep, so that's all I have for today. So if I see you guys next Monday, or actually on Wednesday, right? That's when the final is, May 19th. Then I'll see you, maybe show up in the Zoom call. If not, then I guess that's it for the semester for talking to you guys. So thanks for a good semester. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this weird lab where it's online. And hopefully you guys do well in your finals, and yep, good luck, alright? So have fun studying. And I guess that's it. So I'll see you guys either next week, or on campus sometime, or never. Alright.
Thanks, and good luck on your finals too.
Thanks.
Thank you, Professor. Enjoy your day.
You too.
Thank you, Professor.
Yep, thank you. See you guys.